We're going to start with the background. So we'll go from the top to the bottom. And I am going to use two colors. One is antique gold and titanium white for this. And I'm going to start just by putting white on my canvas like so. And I have big space here, so I'm going to use a bigger brush. This is what I'm using right now. It's about a 3/4 inch flat. So I'm just going to start by putting in some white, titanium white, onto my canvas. Then I'm going to pick up some of that antique gold, and I'll put that right on top of my white, and that's just going to lighten it a little bit. And that's the look I'm going for, a lighter version of the antique gold. Now some of it, I'm not mixing it on my plate, so some of it will be lighter and then some of it will be darker. I'm picking up white again and coming down further on my canvas and filling in these nice big spaces. This was just titanium white, and I'm alternating back and forth with the titanium white and the antique gold, which gives me the look that I want. It's not a solid color. It's just sort of a blended color. White again. Bigger space, bigger brush, smaller space, smaller brush. Now I just picked up some antique gold and I'm putting that in there. I'm doing small X's, kind of like this. I would just do it so quickly you can barely see it, but it's just going back and forth using both sides of my brush when I'm painting like this. And as you see, these little areas right here are a lot smaller. So I'll move to a smaller brush when I do that, a little flat one. But I will do the same thing. I will go in with white, go around my areas. Even if I have a couple bubbles right there, and even if they get covered up a little bit, I'm okay. Same thing, white first, then I pick up some titanium white first, then I pick up some antique gold, and I just try and go around my drawings. And here I am just kind of going out a little bit and blending it into what I had previously painted with my larger brush. Picking up more titanium white just to go around these edges with my smaller brush. And once again, if I have covered it, it's okay. I more or less know where those bubbles were and where I want to put them back in. Also, if you are following the video, there may be a tracer where you can put those bubbles back in using a tracer. If you bought the kit, then the bubbles are already there on the pre-sketched canvas. And there we go. I just used a smaller brush for the smaller space. Bigger brush, bigger space, smaller brush, smaller space. And you just continue with the background, alternating my colors, alternating the titanium white and the antique gold here for a nice background. I'm going to continue with my larger brush, bigger space, bigger brush, and I'm just going to continue doing the exact same thing. When I get around my cup like this, even though it's a big space, I just turn my brush. so it gives me a smaller line. And just alternating my colors. As I get further down, I may use a little less white as I get further down my canvas and pick up a little bit more of the antique gold color, and that will just make this part of the canvas a little darker than the upper half of the canvas. Still alternating colors, still blending it and mixing it, not really blending it, but mixing it back into the colors that I had already put on there. Alternate your colors until you get them how you like them. I'll do the same thing on this side between the cup, wine glass, and the wine bottle. I'll do the exact same thing. I'm just going to put in some titanium white, and then I'm going to bring in that antique gold and mix that in with my titanium white. In this little space right here, as it gets very close to the cup, you can change to the smaller brush if you wish, and then you can come right in here up into this edge. This is the background, so if I accidentally go into either the cup or the wine bottle, that's okay, because I will be able to cover that when I'm actually painting the wine bottle or the glass. That's what's really, really good about acrylic paints. They dry really, really quickly, and as they dry, you can always cover them up, and that's a real nice feature about acrylic paint. So here we go. We're going to continue the backdrop, going carefully around my grapes down here. But if I actually go into the grapes, I'm okay with that. If I go into the grapes, again, I can just cover it up when I am actually painting the grapes. And again, if you want to change to the smaller brush, go right ahead and change that smaller brush to get around those grapes. Just doing the exact same technique as before. Just still doing the same little X's. And I'm just coming in with the smaller brush, but I'm doing the exact same thing in order to get the exact same results on the background. So again, I'm still doing the same thing, titanium white, then the antique gold. I'm just using less white and more gold down here because I want it to be a little darker than I have at the very top. Now I'm using antique gold and white for this one, and in the kit it has antique gold and white, but I always recommend that you have your own colors that you like to use, colors that speak to you, colors that you like, and that way you can always make this background any color you wish. You can still do the same techniques by bringing in the white and the whichever color you choose, the primary color that you choose to use, and then you can create this exact same style of background just using the colors that you wish. And again, I am still alternating my colors, going back and forth. Until I get the background color that I desire. Smaller space, smaller brush. So I'm using my small brush in here, but you can definitely choose when to move from your bigger brush to your smaller brush. Just doing the same thing I was doing on the top. I'm just making it slightly darker down here at the bottom. It's just my preference. I like it this way. It kind of gives a little weight to the bottom where it's lighter, and then it gets darker at the bottom. I love these paintings like this for the beginner. This is awesome. It's easy and it's fun. You don't have to stress-free background. It doesn't require any advanced skills at all. It's just getting the paint on the canvas where you want it to go. And there we have it. This is the background. So now I'm going to work a little bit on the grapes down here. So we're going to use a deep burgundy color for the grapes, and I'm going to use two brushes, a small round brush and a small flat brush. So I'm going to start by taking some of the burgundy, and I'm going to just choose where I want to start. So I'm going to start up here, and I'm kind of going to outline my grape. This is one of the grapes that's in the back, so I'm just outlining that grape like so, and then I'm going to fill it in. And you could use whichever brush, the small one or the little or the small square, in order to fill this in. Small round or the small square in order to fill this in. And I'm just filling it in with the deep burgundy color. Then I'm going to come back in with a little bit of white while that is wet, and maybe just put in a little bit of what would be titanium white. Will make it just slightly lighter in some areas of it, and that's gonna, when it dries, it'll just be slightly lighter, and it'll look like a little highlight on the grape. And then when it's all nice and dry, we will come back and even give it more of a highlight. So again, deep burgundy and titanium white is a little bit of what I'm using to start these grapes. So again, I'm going to outline the grape using my small round brush. I'm going to create an outline. And you want to do these individually, because that way you will see the separation between each grape. If you just go in there and try and do them all in one shot like this, then you're not going to get that separate look for each grape. So I'm going to come around here with a little bit of the titanium white on my tiny brush. Just put it in here a little bit around where it's meeting the other one. Just going to give it some little shape there. And again, I wipe my brush in between my colors because I want my next grape to be nice and dark burgundy, so I'm going to come around and outline my grape like so. And then this is a small little one up here, so I'm just filling it in back there. Might like leave that one nice and dark because it's behind the other ones, kind of meaning that one's in the shadows there. So I might do the same right in here. Outline. Always outlining. That's just gonna separate your grapes. And then leave this one nice and dark back here in the back. And come over again. This one is kind of in front of the others. So I'm going to come in here and outline it. Then I will fill it in after it is outlined. And if you have a few minutes to wait in between your grapes, it will even show more when you outline it. So there we go. Then I'm going to give it a little bit of highlight in here. And again, we'll put more highlights when this is nice and dry. Right now, I'm just putting in a little bit. And the good thing about acrylic is you can always just blend back and forth until you get a nice color that you like, and then you let it dry. I'm also kind of going in the shape of the actual grapes, which is kind of like around and around. There we go. And so we continue to do this. This is a perfect time in the video to not have to listen to me speak. You can turn on some music and just focus on your grapes. And again, you can leave some of them nice and dark, and other ones you can just make brighter. And you just continue. Always outlining first, and then filling it in. When you outline it with a small round or brush, what happens, it kind of beads up a little bit on the edge. The paint beads up a little bit on the edge, and that's kind of what you want there. You want that little bead, because that little bead that beads up right around here is what gives you that little bit of difference between the two grapes. You want that bead to stay there. You don't want to blend that bead out, because you want to show each individual grape. So again, I'm bouncing between my two brushes, the small brush and the bigger brush, but you can stay with the small brush the whole time. It works just as well if you stay with the little brush, the little round. Works just as well. I'm adding some of my white. And then I wipe my brush, and then I continue. If you see, I use my pinky to stabilize my hand when I'm doing this. So that is my reasoning for going this way, because that way my pinky is on dry canvas at that moment. When I put it down, my pinky is on the dry canvas. Continuing right here, same thing. I am outlining my grape. This one's kind of in the back of the others, and behind the others, which is okay. You can choose which grapes you want on the front, which grapes you want on the back. In the back, it's just a cluster of grapes. There is no right or wrong cluster. You can make the cluster however you wish, whichever ones you wish to be in the front, whichever ones you wish to be in the back, right? Which makes this easier and fun because you can just create what you wish out of these cluster of grapes, however you want them to be, which ones you want in the back, and which ones you'd like in the front. Take your time to create these. Just focusing on the circles. That's what they are, little circles, right? Just focus on the circles. Creating the different colors if you wish to lighten them up or darken them up. Take your time. If ever you feel like, oh, I can't tell the difference between where one started and when the other, you can just take your deep burgundy and trace it out again, and you'll see it'll darken that little area up. And you just keep creating little circles. And just trace the one that's in the background first. Trace it out. Then fill it in. It's okay if there's a tiny bit of white in between them and you want to cover that up with the deep purple, you can. You can make another layer. Just makes it darker. Some of these are bigger circles and some are smaller ones. And by all means, you can change the shapes and make them not so perfectly round. Some of mine are not perfectly round, and that's okay. Just continue to make outlining it first. Just take your time doing this. I know a lot of times it's hard to be patient and taking your time to create these. But if you just focus on what you want to create here, you'll find that you will enjoy it. And it'll be a little stress-free if you just take your time. In creating these little grapes. And I'm just picking up some white and lightening some of the areas that I'd like to have lighter, leaving my nice dark edge for my grape. And if you wish to have green grapes, you can do the same exact thing with the green color instead of red grapes. Same concept. You can just go one grape at a time. Leaving the dark edge so that you can separate the grapes, but creating a lighter center or a lighter area that has the highlight in. Same concept, different color grape. This is a burgundy color, but you can choose a purple grape, more purpley color. Whatever color makes you smile, whatever color makes you happy, that's what you should choose. I'm just going to continue outlining my grape back here. This is going to stay a little bit more dark there. Maybe a slight highlight because this one is over that one. So maybe just slightly on this side. There we go. And this one right here. You can create layers, right? The more layers of the color that you put on each grape, the darker the grapes will be. And that's kind of cool too. Because the darker the grapes are, or the more vibrant your colors will become. So that's kind of cool. If you want nice, bright grapes, you do more layers. And I'm hoping you can see the grapes as they are coming out now. Coming to life. Right here on your canvas. Coming to life right here on your canvas. I just love watching them come to life. Like, look at this grape coming out. I love how it goes from just the idea to making it look like what I want it to look like. I'm just gonna continue. Creating my grapes. And putting my highlights, not dropping your brush like I just did. Putting a little bit of highlights when I find that there is a grape that is over other grapes, then I kind of lighten that one up a little bit. Still leaving a nice dark edge. And then I just continue. Again, if I feel like I need a little bit of highlight to show which one is over the other one, I just come in with a little titanium white and I put that in there. Just to remind me which one is on top. And again, what I love, love, love about this is there's no right or wrong on which grape is on top of the other. You just create the one that you feel should be on top. I love how these little grapes are coming out. I love how cute they look. Makes me want to go get some grapes. And how fun it is to be stress-free and just focused on creating. Just focus on creating. And again, if I were to create another layer of the grapes, if I wanted to have a more vibrant colors or darker colors, or just give it another layer, I would do the exact same process over again. I would still go individually, one grape at a time, just to get the same exact technique, style that I did before. I would just do that again. All the way until I am happy with the results. And that is the most important thing here, is for you to be happy with your results, right? Trust the process, let it go through its stages, and then continue it until you're happy with the results. That is what is important. Art is to bring you joy. I'm going to work on the leaves right here of the grapes. And I'm using an aloe color green, and I'm just going to use my small flat brush and just fill in these leaf shapes. One of these is kind of like a football shape, and then the other one is more of an organic shape leaf. And I'm just going to fill these in with this green. Just fill it in with the green. I'm using the small flat brush, but if you feel more comfortable with the round brush, go right ahead and do that. I'm just turning my brush in different angles. Now I'm going to work on the bottle of wine here, and so I'm going to use green, olive, aloe green to do the bottle. So I'm going to start at the top and just go filling in this bottle with the green color. I'm going to do the bottle. I'm going to continue to do the bottle with this green color. This is actually the color is aloe that I'm using, but I just like this color, this green. Okay, here we go. Still doing the wine bottle in aloe. Just filling in around the spaces that I have drawn out. And I'm just coming down using a downward stroke here, just because that's how I want my eye to go. Being very careful around these areas. But if I accidentally go into it, it's okay. It's acrylic, so it'll dry, and then I can cover it up. Love that about acrylic. If you're using the small flat, when you get to the edges, turn your brush so that you can get a nice thin but straight edge. And in the areas where there's more space, turn it on a wider angle of your brush. I'm just gonna fill this all in with green. I really like this color, green. But you can choose any color you wish to create your bottle. And so much more can be done. We're going to these little spaces, I'm going to use a different color, a lighter color green, in order to give it the highlights. So much can be done with this. You can do any color you want for your bottle. I just particularly like this color green. Try to be nice and right in front of your canvas when you're painting. I'm off to the side a little bit so that y'all can see what I'm doing, but try to do it right in front so you get nice straight lines in your bottle. This, of course, is just the beginning for beginners art or beginners acrylic painting, but you can still use this and create much more depth or different styles with this same kit. I think that would be nice too. So now we'll give this a few minutes for it to dry and give it a nice second coat. I'm going to take that same green and add a little bit of titanium white to it, and that's what I'm going to use for these highlights. So it's really much more white than it is green, and I'm using my small brush, and I'm just going to come in here and highlight this bottle with this color. And again, this is just the light green. It is actually the titanium white with the aloe. And that's just going to come in here and give some nice highlight to my bottle, as well as these little down here in this area as well. Fill this area in. Just a much lighter version of that same green. And I had accidentally covered some of it up with the dark green, but you can see right here it's very easy once that green is dry to come back in and go right over it. And there we have it. For this little area right here in the wine bottle, I'm going to take some green and I'm going to trace it out with my green. I'm going to trace this out with the green. Just tracing out these lines with the green. And I'm going to come in with the gold color, and then I'm going to fill it in the gold. Fill this in with the gold. You can absolutely do this the other way. Paint it all gold, then trace it. I like the little blend that I get of a little bit of that green in the gold. This is just the straight gold. I'm not adding anything to the gold. This is the antique gold, except for a little bit of that green is still wet, so it's going into it, and I kind of like that. There we go. So now my bottle has that little golden rim around it. And now I'm going to work right here on the label. So I'm going to make my label mostly white with a little bit of gold and green in it. However, this is where you have the options, right, to paint this any way you like. Again, this is my version of the label. You can put your name in on this label. You can do anything pretty much on this label. I'm starting with titanium white, bigger space, so I'm using a bigger brush. And I'm just gonna trace this out first so I know where my lines are, and I'm just adding titanium white in here. This is a custom label, you can think of it like that, and that way you can create any label you wish to create on here, any way that you want. I'm going to use some green in here, and I'm just going to pull some green down with my bigger brush. I'm not trying to fill it in or anything. I'm just putting some green in there like that. And then I will do the same thing with the gold. So I don't have a lot of paint on my brush. And then I'm just going to pull some gold in on there. Now this is your wine bottle, your custom label. You can create any label you want. You can make it anything you want. It's your label. Make this label any way you want, which would be very nice. You can put your name in here, your family name. You can put the kind of wine you like. I would probably write Merlot. I like Merlot. And you can just, any name you want to in there. That's your wine, your label. In this little area right here, I'm going to put the background color into here. I hadn't done that before, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And just like I did the original background where I started with white first, that's exactly what I'm going to do in here. I'm going to start with white, and I'm going to put white in this area, which is the area that's kind of see-through through the bottle. Through the glass. It's, you're seeing the wall or the area behind it through the glass. So I'm gonna do it just like I did the background, where I put in white and then I came in with the antique gold color, and I did some little X's in there, and that's exactly what I'm doing for this background color as well. I'm just going to come in here with the titanium white as well as the antique gold, and it's just going to be like the background that we see up here. So I'm using my little flat brush for this one, just filling it in as I go, making it light, not too dark. And there's a couple of little bubbles, but if I cover them up, it's okay. I know where they were, and I can just put those little bubbles right back in there. If I can get around them, I will, but if I can't, I'm not worried. It's okay. I know where they were, and I'll put them right back in. when I'm ready. Just filling this in so it looks like we can see through the glass where our wine is going to be. We can see the backdrop through the glass. And the same up here. Same exact thing up here. White. And then antique gold. Leaving that line for the rim. Antique gold a little bit. Here we go. Get some of that gold color in there. It's okay if I accidentally go over the rim. Once it's dry and we put the rim in there, it'll be fine. All right. And there is that. So I'm going to work on the wine now, the wine that's inside of the glass here. I'm going to start with this deep Burgundy again, and I'm going to come in here and do the deep Burgundy on this part, which is like the inside of the wine. I'm going to do that part first because I want it to dry. So again, I'm using the small flat brush, and I'm coming in here to do this section of the wine first because I'm going to want to layer that to make it nice and dark. A couple of layers will make it nice and dark. So I'm going to just come in here and fill this in, and it's much easier to do thin layers that aren't dark and let them dry and then layer it up than it is to try to make it all thick at one time. And like the grapes, we took one section at a time. We're going to do the same thing here. So that's the first section inside the wine. Then while that's drying, we will come in and start the other part of the glass and the wine. So I'm going to come in here and do the same thing. Even though it's the same color, I'm taking my time just to realize where the colors were at, where the separation. And I'm just following this wine glass down. See how I can tell the difference? I can see that little bead right there where it's beaded up, where I know I'm going to want that inside darker than out here. And just take your time while you're doing this. Don't rush. Turn your brush different angles to get in where you want to be in on the canvas. keep your eye on the tip. Keep your eye on your bristles, because that's where the paint is going, where the bristles are. So keep your eye on your bristles. That way you will know exactly where you're putting your your paint on your painting. And while I'm painting this, and you can be painting yours, if there's anything you don't like or anything you want to change, right, this is perfect timing to do that on any parts of your painting. A lot of times when I'm painting, I just go ahead and change something when I want to. Sometimes I'm just experimenting to see how it looks. How does it look if I do it this way? Or how does it look if I, do it a different way? It's fun to experiment with what you're painting. This is it. This is the journey of learning to paint. Right? It's a journey of learning, how do I get the technique that I want or the look that I want? What technique can I use to get that look? Or how can I use my brush to get that look? Or although I know this continues up there, I'm going to stop right where that rim is at. Then I'll continue passing that, passing up beyond that rim. That's going to remind me that's where I want that rim to go. This is with the smaller round brush. Smaller space, smaller brush. So I've chosen to come in here with the smaller brush. Painting right here where this glass has tipped over into the bottle and splashed some of this wine. Splash some of this wine up there onto the bottle. And then here are some little drops, some little droplets of wine that have splashed up. Just some little drops of wine that have splashed into the air. And some that are coming down onto the bottle. Some droplets of wine. There are a few in here. Just a few drops. There we go. So, like before, this is the first one layer that I have on this wine. I'm going to go ahead and put a second layer in here where the center was, where I had originally painted first, that's going to give this second layer is going to make it darker. And you can do this with either brush, the small round brush or the smaller flat brush. Either space will work well. I mean, either brush will work well in this space. And then as you continue this process with the top of the wine here, you can let it dry. And if you add a layer to this section, add a layer to that one, that will always make the middle part darker than this front layer. So as this layer here is dry, acrylic dries really, really quickly, I'm going to come in and put in a second layer. And remember, even though they were both the same color, I did them separately. That usually creates this little bead of paint in between the two sections. That way you know which are your two sections there. And just adding this second layer, because this is a little bit transparent. There is nothing wrong with that. You could leave it like that if you wish. I'm going to cover it up. And just like the grapes where we put in some white to show in the difference of grapes, we can do the same thing for the wine here, and we can put in some white right around the top right here of this section, which is really the wine that's being splashed around. And because you're putting a lighter color next to the darker color, which will be this section in here, that will even look even darker. It will make it look even darker. And this is just white on that wet burgundy paint. So I did 2 layers on this one and 2 layers on that one. So now to make this side even darker, I will add 1 more layer in there, and that will make this section darker than this part, than the front of it. So always adding one extra layer to this part right here. That will make it just look darker. More of the shadow, more of the center of the cup instead of on the outside like the rest of the wine was. Then once we get this looking the way we want it to look, we will continue with the stem. Okay, so now as it dries, we're going to take that small flat brush into these little areas right here at the very top of this section where it splits off from the dark to the light. And we're going to take some of white with the red, and it's going to make a pinkish color. And we're just going to come in here and lighten this up just slightly like so. Just a little bit, as it just going to lighten it just a little to show where the lighter side is and then where the darker is right here. So it's just the pink. It's just a little white in with that tiny bit of white in with the red. There we go. It's just gonna show where it separates the dark from the lighter one right here. Just blend it in a little bit. There we go. Same thing for this little bit of section right here and here. Just the white with just a hint of the red to make it a pinkish tone of white instead of just stark white. And I'm just going to do the highlights in this color right in here. Just a little bit of highlight. Right in there. And right in here. You can use your small round brush for this. That would work really well. Just, there we go, nice little highlight in the glass. So we're going to continue to work the stem part coming down. So for the stem part, I'm going to still use the red wine color and the white, which is the burgundy and white. So I'm going to start right up here at the top. This is where I want it to be most darkest, around the top here. So I'm just, like everything else, it's the same color, but because I'm just coming in here and doing it separate from the others, you can see a little bit of the separation from this to that. Kind of beads up a little bit. Then I'm going to come down here in this little area. It's going to have a few highlights in here, which is okay if I accidentally cover them up because we put them back in. So I'm just going to bring this wine color all the way down the stem. Just using just the wine, but because this is only one layer that I'm putting in here, it's not as dark as this that I have up here or as dark as my grapes, because this is just my first layer. So I'm coming all the way down my stem with this wine color. I'm going to go ahead and do it all the way off my canvas here. And of course you'll want to try and get a nice straight line there. Then I'm going to continue that, making sure that I've gone all the way to my edge, not leaving any canvas white in between. All the way down. And it's okay, you can try and be nice and straight, and sometimes my glasses just go wonky. And I'm okay with that. Sometimes they don't stay as nice and straight as I would like them to be. But I am happy with them even in their imperfections. So then I'm going to take what I call a dirty brush, means I'm not cleaning my brush. It's still going to be, it's still going to have red in there, and I'm just going to start in here and put a little bit of white in here, coming down my stem. And this is just the very first layer, and it's okay. I'm just going to blend it out because I'm going to cover it again with more of the red, of the burgundy color. This will just be a little lighter. It's just going to be nice where when I do put my highlights in there, it's gonna look really pretty. Here we go. So while that is drying, I'm going to take my round brush and I'm going to use white with my round brush. I'm going to take my titanium white and I'm just going to come over here and put in some white where I want my glass to show. So if you see, I'm not doing a lot of titanium white. I'm just doing a very little bit of titanium white. And I'm just putting it in here where I think my rim of my glass should go. Very little bits of white at a time. Almost see-through. Remember to stop, don't go through that on the top part, but down here on the bottom part you do want to go through it. That's what's going to make it look like it's inside the glass. Very little bits of white at a time. I can do the same thing, very little bits of white at a time, right around the edge of my glass, where my wine is inside the glass. So I'm just going around the edge with the white, very little bits of white at a time. That's how I'm doing it. Very little bits of white. same on this side. Very little bits of white, outlining where I drew the wine. Almost transparent in color, right? It's still there, but I'm using such little bits that it's almost transparent in color. And even though I'm going to come back in here with the wine, I'm going to go ahead and finish this off all the way to the end. That gave me time for my stem to dry, as I'm going to come in here and add some nice dark color to my stem. I am going to darken most of it up, but then I'm going to add white to it and lighten up my sides here. Now I'm just picking up the red, but I'm going to add a little bit of white, and it's going to make it more of a pinkish color. And you can just experiment with this until you get this stem looking like you want it to look. I like this right here. But you can certainly play with it until you get it to look how you would like your stem to look. You can use all of the colors that you have at your disposal. Any colors that you have to create the stem that you want. Then once that stem is dry, I will come in and do the same tracing that I did up top. I will do the same thing with the white down here on my stem. Being very careful. I just dropped my brush. Little bits of white at a time. Just outlining it like I did the top part up here. This is stress-free zone, so don't panic if you're like, oh, it's not, this isn't realism. This is fun painting, stress-free painting, getting it to look like something that you would like to hang on your walls. Fun, decorative art that anyone can do. And I will continue to work that until I am happy with it. And then you let it dry. So to finalize my painting here, I'm going to just put a few highlights in and into some different areas. Like I'll start by putting a little bit of highlights where the wine is. So I might just I'm going to take just plain white and kind of brush this in like so. Just these little kind of small swoops just to show where the glass may be in here. As well as kind of just bringing in maybe a straight down on the side here, just following where the glass would be. And I'm just using white. I'm just following the lines to where the glass would actually be kind of reflecting a little bit there. So that's just kind of where the glass may be reflecting some. Just to show, and a little bit here as well. Just where the reflections would be. Also in my grapes, I can come in and give it just some. You can put as many or as few as you would like, just to make it pop a little bit. Again, as few or as many as you would like here, just to make them pop. And these are just little highlights, or where the light may be reflecting. Whoops. This is why I love acrylic. It's okay, I can always go back in and fix that. And then I may write something across here, but this I'm going to leave blank for right now, but you can fill in whatever you want to on this label. I think that would make it very personal to you. So I hope that you enjoyed doing this painting with me, and I hope you continue to paint. Look for other paintings, other kits, and continue to paint.